What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining me on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on a 2016 Volkswagen Mk6 GLI. Today on the Mk6 behind me, we're going to be covering how to replace your sway bar end links. In front of us, we have one of the kits available on fcpo.com, which is a Lemforder kit, which includes everything you need to do this job. Just like any other suspension component, sway bar end links are also a crucial item that need to be replaced every so often. Typically, we recommend you do these whenever you do strut or shock replacements. The vehicle behind us has about 50,000 miles. We actually just did a strut DIY on that cup kit install, if you will, if you want to check that out as well. It was getting a little clunky. It was basically just riding on the springs, and funny enough, we did it before and after, and the car actually sat a little bit higher. It was sagging so low before. So now it has new struts and shocks in the rear. We're gonna go ahead and do the end links, as these can get clunky. They are just ball joints on a rod essentially. So just like your tie rods, every time the car goes over a bump, they are doing work. These help keep the car nice and level when they're attached to the sway bars. As they get older, they can start clunking, they can creak, and eventually they can just totally fail. And oftentimes even the ball joint ends will rip out, but only on extreme situations. Before we get started on this DIY though, let's take a look at some of the tools we're gonna need for this job. All right, my good people, for this job, we have 2 torque wrenches, a 1/2-inch drive mainly for our wheels, and a 3/8 drive for the small hardware we're working with. Small 1/4-inch ratchet. We have a 16 mil and an 18 mil ratcheting wrench. A regular one will work as well. Whenever we do any suspension work, I like to have the CTA pass-through socket set. This is CTA 7466, which we may dive into while doing this job. As far as sockets go, we have a 17 mil, we have a 16 mil, we also have a 16 mil for our 1/2-inch drive, so we have both sizes. We have an 18 mil as well for the fronts. We have a T25, which we may use for some of the skid shield hardware. We have an M6 triple square. That's going to be probably the most crucial tool here that you need to counter hold the ball joint ends on the end links. Electrical tools make the job a little bit quicker. And with that, let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, for today, my good people, we're going to focus on the passenger side of the vehicle, doing the front and the rear. I'm going to be covering taking the wheel off on the front, and we'll put the wheels back on in the rear, torque specs, all that good stuff. Steps are going to be identical on both sides. If you have the beauty cover still on your Volkswagen, go ahead and pop those off, either with the tool provided in your trunk, or a small right angle pick like this works fine too. All right, then we have 5 17mm lug bolts to remove. We're gonna go ahead and zap those out. Just be mindful once you get to the last one, the wheel's gonna wanna fall down on you, so make sure you brace it or something so that it doesn't drop on your foot. I'm just gonna take the spacer off now before it falls. With that off, now we have a greater view of where our end link is located. We have the top portion up here on the strut body and the lower portion down on the sway bar. So we're gonna start at the top, get our socket set ready, and go from there. All right, so we have an 18mm nut up top with an M6 triple square for a counter hold. Now, as we mentioned during the tool section, depending on the type of end link that's on your car or you're installing, oftentimes, even though there is a counter hold, you don't always need to counter hold to remove the hardware. When we did the strut video, the 18mm nut came out. I don't know if that's because the ball joint was seized or that's just how the ball joint was designed in this end link specifically. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 18mm socket, this is from the pass-through set that we talked about, see if it'll still come off all the way, and if not, we'll use the counter hold M6 to remove it. You can also squeeze in a 5mm hex from that pass-through socket set as well if you don't have the triple square at home. I think we're gonna be in luck, but just to give you a visual of how the counter hold would work, we have the M6 on a small extension. We're gonna feed that through the center of the pass-through socket. That would hold the center stud on the ball joint from moving, and then we would just break off the nut like this. So pretty straightforward, awesome tool to have, especially when you're doing any sort of suspension work. Can't recommend it enough. We'll remove that nut the rest of the way, and we don't need to save it as we have new hardware with the new end links. This one we can just push out. All right, underneath the car, the sway bar ends right in front of the control arm. Now, realistically, yes, you can get in there with a wrench and your counter hold probably and get that off. But it's going to be a little bit tight to get a proper ratchet in there to torque everything down. So in order to torque everything down properly, we're just going to go ahead and remove this lower skid plate. It's held on by 8 T25, so it'll take 2 seconds to zap out. And then we have a better view of the hardware and we can torque everything down properly. So don't come at me. I know you can get to it, but we can't torque it properly. So T25. Then this can just slide back and pull towards us. And we'll just set it to the side. At this point, you can take your 18 mil socket, or you can take your 18 mil wrench, whichever one you want to fit in there. Either one, you have plenty of room to work with. I'm going to use the wrench for this one just to break it loose. And then again, we got lucky with the end link gods today. They allowed us to not need to use a counter hold. All right. With that undone, this can come out. And here is our old end link. So not the worst one I've seen. Again, only 50,000 miles on the vehicle. While the struts were totally worn, these are still okay. They could have lasted maybe another 30,000 miles, but today it's about teaching. It's not about this car, it's about you. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and set this down, grab our new one, and we'll work on the install. All right, now we're gonna take our new end link. Comes with the hardware ready to rock and roll. We're just gonna feed it up, let it hang out up top, and get it through our sway bar down below. Then we'll get the nut started by hand. Before I tighten that down, I'm just gonna feed the top portion of the end link into the strut, and then we'll leave it loose and we'll tighten this bottom one down. Now with that, we can work on snugging down our end link at the sway bar end. This 18 millimeter nut gets torqued down to 65 Newton meters. So I'm just gonna snug it up using my ratcheting wrench a little bit. All right. Now we'll take the torque wrench, squeeze in that socket. There we go. Not a whole lot of force. These don't need to be uber tight on there. You don't want to stress out the ball joint. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of a paint mark. And now at this point, if you've done the other side already, you can put your cover back on with the 8 T25s. I'm gonna leave it off for now just because we're gonna do the other side when we're done here. But for now, let's head back up top and get that upper end link situated. Now up top, we're gonna snug up the 18 millimeter nut, same thing, 65 Newton meters. Electric ratchet just to speed it up a little bit. There we go. And I'm gonna go over the nut with a little paint pen so we know it's marked down. Use the same spot on the strut body. All right, now we have that all marked up. All we have left to do on this side is reinstall our wheel. Our spacer back on for this car specifically. Once we do the back side, we're gonna lower the car down in full and torque down all the wheels. So we'll cover that at the end. But for now, I'm just gonna get this on and then we'll pick it back up in the rear in just a moment. All right, in the back section, we have our wheel off. We're gonna start with a 16 mil wrench to try to break this nut free. We're gonna see if it will hold itself just like the fronts did. If not, we'll use our counter hold tool. All right, so in this case, it is spinning on us. So we're gonna grab our M6 bit. We're gonna use it with the wrench instead of the pass-through socket set. I think we'll have a little bit of a better angle with that. So what I'm dealing with right now is the first turn we did counter holding, the end of the actual end link ball joint end split. So the M6 is now swimming around the inside of the end. I've never seen that before. I've stripped plenty of hardware before, but never cracked the end of the end link, where now it's not able to be counter held with the M6 triple square. So I have it a bit tapped in there. I'm gonna see if I can get the ratchet on without the extension. All right, my good people, we are switching over to the driver's side. Believe it or not, the end of the ball joint where the M6 counterhold goes actually split in half. So I ended up having to cut off the ball joint, which doesn't help you or I for this video. So we've come over to the other side. We've hit everything with a little bit more penetrating fluid this time, and we're gonna hope for a better result. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take my M6 bit, I'm gonna feed it into the end of the ball joint end here. And I'm gonna give it a couple love taps with the hammer just to make sure it's seated all the way in. All right, at that point, sounds like it's fully seated. We're gonna take our 1/4 inch ratchet and our 16mm wrench. All right, that should be ready to come out. We're gonna raise the car up now and work on the other side of the end link. M6 on the opposite side here as well. Same thing, we're gonna tap it in. Then we can pull this out. And now while we're down here, we'll do the reverse, feed the new one in. So we will feed the top of the ball joint in, bring this to us. Then we're gonna have to pull down on the sway bar a bit to get the angle and hold the line up so we can get our bolt through. And we can thread our new 16mm nut on. And then same idea, we're gonna use the M6 bit to counterhold with our 16mm wrench to snug it up. And then we'll switch over to the torque wrench with our socket to give it the final torque. Now we can switch over to the 16mm socket and our torque wrench, 245 Newton meters. There we go. And we'll hit it with a little paint pen. All right, now we can switch over to the front half once more, do the same thing, and wrap up this DIY. And we're gonna thread our new 16mm nut on the other side. And same idea, my good people. We're gonna snug it up using the 16mm wrench, our ratcheting wrench, and M6 counterhold. There we go. 45 Newton meters. Hit it with the little paint mark. Now we can get our wheel back on. We'll just get it snugged up gently to the hub so that we know it's sitting nice and flush. And then we'll lower the car down and give the lug bolts the final torque. Let's get it back on the ground and we'll torque them up. All right, we have our torque wrench set to 120 Newton meters. We're gonna tighten them down in a crisscross pattern. And with that, my good people, don't forget to put your beauty covers back on if you still have them. But that's gonna conclude this DIY for today. Overall, a really straightforward and easy DIY on the Mark 6. And this will be applicable to all your Mark 6 models, as well as some Mark 2 TTs, EOS, A3s, a whole ton of Volkswagens from this era. So quite a bit. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a rip thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.